The pictures are pictures. I am one of the people who has seen these pictures, and these are pictures that Jeffrey Epstein would take out of his safe.
Let's take stock of where we are in the country very briefly before I get to this. We're in a situation where the President of the United States has been credibly accused of abusing children, with his decade-and-a-half-long best friend, a convicted pedophile, trafficker, sex trafficker of children. He's floating pardoning that particular Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficker, considering pardoning that person's co-conspirator in the crime, Ghislaine Maxwell. And there has now been accusations, charges, claims that there are photos of Donald Trump, clothed Donald Trump, thankfully, with an assortment, a number of half-naked young women, girls. We don't know because we haven't seen the photos. That's where we are in the United States of America right now. And I want to remind you of what took place the other day during the oversight hearing of the Senate Judiciary Committee, having Pam Bondi, the Attorney General there, when Sheldon Whitehouse, senator from Rhode Island, made this claim, asked the question, does the FBI have possession of these photos, and have you seen them? If they do. Now, I want to remind you that her answer was not an answer. It was just a series of pre-formulated, pre-canned remarks, attacks on the senator, rather than actually answering the question. And then I'm going to get to video of Michael Wolff, the Trump biographer, the prolific writer who, up to this point, I can't point to anything he's been wrong about it, but all of the wild claims that he's made have turned out to be true. This guy, you can say what you will about him, doesn't seem to be a liar to me. First, let's start with Sheldon Whitehouse. Just the other day, as a reminder, there'll be a timer on the clip. You can see it. If you've already seen it, you don't want to be reminded, you can skip ahead and we'll move on.
Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay.
So that is the depressing state of the United States of America right now, that we have seen fit as a people to elect this absolute degenerate as president of the United States. So here's where we are now. Yesterday, Michael Wolff appeared on the Daily Beast podcast. I believe the name of it's Inside of Trump's Head or something like that. And again, up to this point, spot on. He's batting 1,000 up to this point. He claims he's seen the photos. He describes in the clip I'm getting ready to play for you the photos. Now, it took him a long time to get. They really stretched it out while talking about it on the podcast. But I've kind of condensed the information that I think is the most important here. And it is Donald Trump with a number of topless young women. He doesn't know their ages, but he emphasizes young women, and then he goes, they were young. And this is where we are in the United States right now. Watch this.
But let's just go back and let me just say, because what they're talking about, the pictures.
Yep.
The pictures are pictures. I am one of the people who has seen these pictures, and these are pictures that Jeffrey Epstein would take out of his safe and kind of display on his dining room table, almost as you would playing cards. This amused him to have these pictures.
Okay, so Michael, I want you to set the scene for us.
But then our conversation rolled on into starting in 2015 and then into 2016, when Trump became what many people obviously were talking about because he was running for president. But Epstein was particularly focused because he and Trump had been the closest of friends for more than a decade. And Epstein fancied himself a real Trump whisperer, that he understood Donald Trump. And in my experience, he was one of the more insightful people about Trump. And I have spoken to a lot of people about Donald Trump. But at any rate, in the course of one of these discussions about Trump, he left the room and then came back holding in his hands about a dozen Polaroid snapshots.
Oh, they're Polaroids. They're Polaroids.
Well, in my mind, they're Polaroid. I'm not 100% sure that they were, but they had those crenellated edges like a Polaroid. That's in my, as I say, in my mind, these are Polaroids, but they certainly are snapshots. And then he kind of like a deck of cards, kind of displayed them on the table. And there were specifically three that I remember, and this is now almost 10 years ago. So, but the three that I remember are two in which topless young women, and I don't know the ages of these women, but they are young, are sitting in Trump's lap. And this is outside Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach around the swimming pool.
Okay. And is Trump dressed? Is he what?
Trump is dressed, and in mind's eye, it's kind of golfy,
right? Golf leisure wear
attire. But
right.
And then in the third picture, there is, and so he's wearing light pants. There is or tannish pants, and there's a stain on the front of his trousers, and the girls, four or five, as I remember, are pointing at the stain and laughing. And that is what I remember. And then Epstein would have returned these pictures to the safe, because I actually asked him, where do you keep these pictures? And he said in the safe. And later, when Trump was elected president, and I tried to encourage Epstein to do something with these pictures, and he said, I can't now. I may be such and such, but I'm not crazy. Implying that he had some reason to fear the wrath of Donald Trump.
And even in that clip, he's intimating that Jeffrey Epstein was afraid of what could come. And where's Jeffrey Epstein now? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein killed himself or was killed by nefarious forces. Well, there's certainly a lot of questions that are valid and reasonable. Speculation might they be, but I don't know. I do know that among the people that I trust and among the people I don't trust, if we're looking at Michael Wolff or Donald Trump, Trump's in the don't trust category, and Michael Wolff would be somebody that I do trust and believe until otherwise proven. What are we going to do here as a nation? We got the midterms coming up. We have an opportunity to change the makeup of who runs the country, to actually hold Donald Trump accountable through impeachment and removal in the Senate. But it's going to take our participation as an electorate to stand up and say, no more. This isn't about policy debate on taxation. This isn't about who runs the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is about our soul as a country, as a republic. Who are we going to choose to lead us? I think the question and the answer is self-evident. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it, Facebook or YouTube. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Thanks for being here. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another. We know Donald Trump to be a lot of things. Many, many things Donald Trump is. He's a grifter, he's a charlatan, he's a liar. But I think most famously, he is a white supremacist. He is an anti-black crusader. He is someone who has set his attention to erasing the contributions of black Americans from every facet of our history, from our military to museums to cultural and scientific advancements that have been provided by the brilliance of black minds in this country. Literally erasing photos on the Pentagon website talking about the accomplishments of black military members. It's an assault on black people in this country. It shouldn't come as any surprise for anybody. If you're white or black, it shouldn't come as any surprise that Donald Trump would do this. But it's also taking a real world impact on the jobs and livelihoods of black people as he is systematically firing specifically black leaders in our government and replacing them with white people. For all of the talk about DEI and that anybody who got their job through DEI was unqualified. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what DEI is, first of all. But secondly, it's just an excuse to continue to erase black contribution in this country. Get a load of this in MSNBC. In New York Times headline, Trump fires black officials from an overwhelmingly white administration. Separately, in the administration's first 200 days, only 2 of 98 Senate-confirmed appointees to the most senior jobs in government were black. One of those, of course, is to run the Housing and Urban Development Administration, the agency. In the first term, it was another black dude. It was Ben Carson, you'll remember. You know, Ben Carson, who has no expertise whatsoever in housing. He's a famed surgeon, but apparently because he's black, he must know about housing and urban development. That in and of itself, it smacks of white supremacy with Donald Trump. Robert E. Primus, the first black board chairman of the federal regulator responsible for approving railroad mergers, at first thought there was something wrong with his work phone. When he couldn't unlock it, he switched to his personal phone, only to learn that President Trump had fired him by email, effective immediately. I didn't see it coming at all, Mr. Primus, a Democrat said in a recent interview. In January, the Trump administration had put a Republican in his place as the chairman of the Surface Transportation Board, which Mr. Primus saw as the president's prerogative. But he had been appointed to the independent board by Mr. Trump in his first term and expected to remain on it, as had been the long-standing practice. Instead, when he heard a White House spokesman say the day after his firing in August that he did not align with the president's agenda, what could it be? What could it be that made him, this particular person, not align with the president's agenda? Mr. Primus, a longtime congressional staff member and former lobbyist on transportation and national security matters, was reminded, he said, of Mr. Trump's widely condemned comment during the 2024 campaign that immigrants were taking, quote unquote, black jobs. You'll remember, I'm sure you'll remember, of all of the times, the dozens, if not hundreds of times Donald Trump has done rallies, and there are props behind him in the way of black people with Blacks for Trump shirts on and shit like that. He wants to portray himself as a friend to the black man. As black unemployment, I've done more for black people than any president in the history of the country, even taking into account Abraham Lincoln. He uses black people as a prop, as a token, some would say, as a means to an end. And then once they are no longer useful to him, he discards them. He erases them from the conversation. Mr. Primus is part of a series of firings of black officials from high-profile positions in an overwhelmingly white administration that has banished all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the federal government. And while there are no statistics on firing by race, there should be. An examination of the people Mr. Trump is appointing to fill those and other jobs shows a stark trend. Of the president's 98 Senate-confirmed appointees to the administration's most senior leadership roles in the first 200 days, ending August 7th, only 2%, Scott Turner, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and Earl G. Matthews, the Defense Department's General Counsel, are black. Now, as always, with good reporting, which isn't always the case with the New York Times, but in this case there is, we got charts, we got data, we have receipts. And look at this. Strange how the dark orange color there that represents black appointees and nominees within Donald Trump's administration is scant, to say the least, in both terms compared to even George W. Bush. It is a fraction, a scintilla, if you will. And this is even more stark, where they show the fired black individuals who were doing stellar work, exemplary work, patriotic work for the United States of America, and they are replaced by mediocre white people in many of these cases. So this isn't about merit. This is absolutely about removing and erasing the contributions in real time of black Americans who are doing service to the country, to replace them with Todd Blanche, Stephen Mayer and James Murphy, David Lacerta, John DeLue. White faces that more accurately represent the Trump administration. This is yet another, just added to the pile of indignities that we must suffer through. And look, I'm one who will. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to sit quietly as it happens. We're going to be bringing this to the forefront of the American people's attention as much as we can. And I hope you will too. You can help by sharing this video or talking about it in the comments. You can do it on Facebook or on YouTube. Both of those platforms you should be liking and following or subscribing. All of that is free. I would appreciate it. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. If you see fit, if I bring you value on a video by video basis, please consider supporting this work, helping me financially to produce this work. For $2 a month, you can become a channel member on YouTube by clicking the join button below the video, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love and appreciate you very much. Be genuine and take care of one another. I really need to get some stickers and some mugs made with a design that says "Stop electing stupid people to high office." I hope that I am one of hopefully more than a few who use this phrase and talk about this concept a lot, because it is important. And we are in a tightest spot we've been in many, many generations in this country, with Donald Trump being the dipshittiest dipshit who ever dipshitted. He is just a moron who doesn't understand the basics of American jurisprudence, because he believes himself to to be a king. He believes himself to be some kind of a dictator type that answers to no one, who isn't constrained by the Constitution or any other document or any other set of concepts. He himself is the ruler of the country. The country's property is his property. Museums, he's wanting to give swords that don't belong to him to foreign leaders, monarchs, kings, his fellow kings. He is just an absolute vile character in the history of our country. He's also very, very, very stupid. Yesterday in his Antifa little brunch that he had or whatever, he's asked a question by a journalist who is absolutely a friendly person. You can tell by the language they use, asking about the potential of suspending habeas corpus, which is the concept of you have to have proof. It is just about due process. Let me read to you the actual definition from Merriam-Webster. Any of several common law writs issued to bring a party before a court or judge. The right of a prisoner or detainee to obtain a writ of habeas corpus as protection against illegal imprisonment. And then down here, it gives a little explanation. The literal meaning of habeas corpus is you should have the body. That is, the judge or court should and must have any person who is being detained brought forward so that the legality of the person's detention can be assessed. Show us the proof. Show us the evidence. You can't just detain someone, arrest someone with no evidence of a crime, which seems to be Donald Trump's whole thing this second term. And he was asked about the suspension of habeas corpus. And there's a number of different things in this very brief clip that are just alarming. One, less important, his hair is just giving up the ghost. It is just a nightmare up there. It is more thinning and sparse. It's like a dystopian movie where they're trying to go grow crops and it's just not working out. Everybody's dying of starvation because nothing will grow. That's what's going up on top of his dome. That's less important. The more important issue is he thinks the guy is talking about a person named habeas corpus. And he gets so frustrated at not knowing the answer. Watch what happens. He's like, I'll let Kristi Noem answer that. Because he doesn't know. And he throws to someone who also doesn't know. She might be more of a moron than Donald Trump. All of this doesn't portend good things for the United States, for a system of jurisprudence. Having the president of the United States, not know the restrictions that are placed upon him by our system of government, not knowing the basics. It's rough. Watch this, and then we're going to move on. And spoiler alert, it only gets more bleak.
Please.
Thank you, sir. I also have two questions for you, if I may. Have you given any more thought to possibly suspending habeas corpus to not only deal with these insurrectionists across the nation, but also to continue rapidly deporting illegal aliens?
Yeah, it's suspending who?
Habeas corpus, sir.
Oh, I don't know. I'd rather leave that to Kristi. What do you think?
No, sir, I haven't been a part of any discussions on that.
All right, go ahead.
How about that hair, huh? Who? Oh, I thought it was a person. And then he throws it to Kristi Noem, who obviously had no clue. I have not heard of those descriptions or those discussions. Oh, is that right? Because you're such an expert on habeas corpus? Because we remember, Kristi Noem, we remember this level of questioning, this very line of questioning that took place during your confirmation hearing with Senator Hassan asked about habeas corpus. And you thought it was the president's right to remove immigrants from the country. We don't forget, and either does video record.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President
habeas
Lincoln
corpus,
used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the live free or die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though, that this president...
It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress.
That's incorrect. You, madame, are wrong. And you were confirmed by the Republican Senate to be the Homeland Security chief. Now, the reason this is very important is that these two dum-dums might not know. These two idiots have no clue what they're doing. They are just performative assholes for the camera. But Stephen Miller, the shadow president of the United States, does know. In fact, he discussed these discussions of suspension of habeas corpus, suspension of the requirement to provide evidence of a crime if you're going to arrest someone. He was asked about this back in May, and this is what the shadow president of the United States had to say.
Hold on, there's a question back there first.
Pundit, I have two quick questions. First, President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen, do you think?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article III courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article III courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch, the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, yes.
Mr. Miller.
So they can act like they don't know as much as they like. Donald Trump can act like he thought it was a person, and Kristi Noem can, I've never heard those discussions. But the shadow president himself has said this is something they're talking about. This is something they're contemplating. Stop electing stupid people, first of all. But also, we need to put a more stringent code in place, a set of rules and strictures in place to prevent unconfirmed. The Congress needs to play a greater role in who they see fit to allow to run the executive branch of the government. Just one more check of many checks in the checks and balance system that we have. Someone as vile and sinister as Stephen Miller has no business being in our government. Certainly not running the Department of Justice that it seems he does, not running the Homeland Security Department as it seems he does, not running the Department of State as it seems he does. All of those other leaders are actually subordinate to him. As he spills the tea, or whatever the saying is, as he gives us the actual details about their inner machinations about suspending habeas corpus. What do you think? I would appreciate your feedback here. Let's talk about it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. If it's on Facebook, make sure you're liked and followed that page there, Dollemore Daily. And if it's on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed for free. Click the subscribe button. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Please, my only ask at the end of this is stop electing stupid people to high office. We have the midterms coming up, and it is up to all of us to pick good and decent people with a heart of servant leadership to serve the constituency, to serve the country, and the best interest of the inhabitants here. I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Be genuine and take care of one another. The state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's one of those people they get their all consternation-y when you call it a state, not a commonwealth. It's the state of Virginia. Yeah, they have an off-cycle gubernatorial situation there where in odd years they elect their governors, not in even years, not in general election time. New Jersey's another one. They have a race right now between Mikey Sherrill and the absolute Trump sycophant, Jack Ciattarelli. Well, Abigail Spanberger is a congresswoman from Virginia running for governor against a woman named Winsome Earl Spears. And last night was their debate, and let me tell you, it was a doozy. Talk about someone trying to do the Donald Trump impression the best they can. And I'm finding, and I don't know about you, but it seems to me to be a situation where no one can do Donald Trump like Donald Trump. No one has the cachet. No one has the cult blinders that they've been able to place over an electorate's eyes. And it's certainly the case with Winsome. She is just a disaster of a candidate. She's now really running behind in the polls, but she's so dangerous. We need to talk about this because I'm getting ready to play 2 clips from the debate. And when the thing that she does where she copies Donald Trump is just interrupt, constantly running her mouth. And it just makes her look like an asshole. It doesn't make her look like Donald Trump comes across during debates to MAGA world, not to the rest of the reasonable community. But I'm going to start with this. And this really is very telling on multiple fronts, this answer to the question, where Abigail Spanberger is discussing the priorities and the beliefs of Winsome Earl Sears, on discriminatory policies, discriminatory practices like firing people based on immutable characteristics. And Winsome is a black lady, and you would think she would have some kind of ability to extrapolate concepts about discrimination, being black, growing up black in the United States. And it just seems to have missed her. She says with her mouth that she doesn't think that firing someone for being gay is discrimination. She says with her mouth that she doesn't believe that not allowing 2 people to marry one another because they're gay is discrimination. What do you do with that information? Anyway, watch this, then we'll move on to a couple other things.
My opponent was asked about her record of discrimination, and importantly, my opponent has previously said that she does not think that gay couples should be allowed to marry. She has said that she is, quote unquote, morally opposed to same-sex marriage. My opponent has also previously said that she thinks it's okay for someone to be fired from their job for being gay. That's discrimination.
Ms. Spanberger, your time.
That is bananas. Well, first of all, think about this. Rather than say, well, I've never said that. I've never said gay people shouldn't be able to marry. I've never said you should be able to fire someone for being gay. She says, oh, no, that's not discrimination. Of course, I believe the government should control who gets to marry who. Of course, I believe that. Of course, I believe you should be able to fire someone for being born gay. That's what she's saying. That's not discrimination. That's just the orderly functioning of our country. And that was when she wasn't trying to interrupt while the other person had the time, disobeying the rules, the previously mutually agreed upon rules for the debate. She, obviously didn't want to be interrupted during her time, but she didn't mind. She believed her time was her time, and she believed Abigail Spanberger's time was also her time.
Not done the same.
No matter who is leading the
and
charge
so
on
when
what?
it is important that all
When
of us set a better example.
And so importantly, no matter water fountain, it took you
providing
to say
the comments
something,
that are
move on,
advocating
but it's
for
difficult for us to hear.
She has
if
no
you're both
courage.
talk-
You
but it's-
cannot be governor. No courage.
The audience can't hear when you're talking over each other, so we just want to make sure that we limit that so people can hear.
She has no courage.
We're going to the next topic
Yes,
now.
we are moving on to the next topic with Tom on federal workers.
Thank you, Deanna. It's
little both sidesing there from the moderators. No, both of the candidates need not interrupt. There was only one candidate interrupting their moderator. And listen, this is just kind of the pattern and practice of Winsome Earl Sears. A few months ago, she was on CNN with Manu Raju asking about whether or not she agreed with Donald Trump's mass firing of hundreds of thousands of federal employees, which absolutely hits home when you're trying to be a political leader in the state of Virginia. Because here in the Washington, D.C. area, you got Maryland to the north, you got Virginia to the south, and a lot of federal employees are in there. And there was a lot of, still, there's a ripple effect, the reverberations of those firings where Donald Trump and Elon Musk just took a blowtorch to our government. It is not functioning like it should be any longer. And it might take generations to fix the damage done. And she, when asked about it, threw a fit. And he's just like, I'm just trying to get a straight answer. Do you agree or not? Watch this moment. This should tell you everything you need to know if you're a Virginia voter about who the clear choice to run your state, Commonwealth, who it is. Watch this from a few months ago.
Well, yeah,
Or
I mean,
is
I was
this
just curious if you
a talking
supported
point
the.
for Democrats?
I was just curious if you
Is
supported
the
the president's
Fairfax
the
County
purge of the federal
Democrats
workforce, but I
just
didn't hear an
wanting
answer to
to
that.
have a talking point so that their candidate, Abigail Spanberger, can win.
No, I
They're
just want to know if you
playing
supported
politics with people's
I
lives.
was
They
curious if you
have
supported the
bills that
president's
they need
purge
to
of the federal
pay.
workforce. That's all. I didn't get a clear answer on that. But I do want to turn to an issue that is also important to a lot of voters.
I've given you a clear answer, but you don't want to hear my clear answer because it's common sense.
So do you support the president's purge of the federal workforce? Yes or no?
Oh, okay. If this is the way you want to go, then go ahead. But I'm just not going to participate.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about real issues.
Did you catch that at the end? I want to talk about real issues. You don't believe that it's a real issue that Donald Trump fired thousands of Virginians from their jobs with no cause. You want to lead. There's other clips out there, by the way, of her acting like, well, people get fired from their jobs all the time. It's not a big deal. Have you been fired from a job? Oh, you have? Well, then you know it's not a big deal to get fired from your job. Trying to normalize the behavior of Donald Trump because there is not a single cross word for Donald Trump from Winsome Earl Sears on record. She is but another Trump sycophant. A bootlicking lapdog who yearns for the boot of tyranny upon her neck, just like any other high priestess in the cult of Donald Trump. And she wants to be governor of Virginia. And look, as bad as Glenn Youngkin was and is for the state of Virginia, she would be markedly worse. It would be a worse outcome to have her in office, because she is recalcitrant in her bigotry, in her hatred, in her suspicions of fellow Americans based on immutable characteristics. The same types of discrimination that she surely has faced in her life. She wants to bear down, she wants to pour that down onto generations of other Americans who were born different than other Americans. Make it make sense. I don't understand it. If somebody could explain it to me, do your best in the comments. I would love to be proven wrong or have the scales fall from my eyes and see the truth of the matter here. You can comment below, as always, or you can call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, make the right choice, Virginia. Be genuine and take care of one another. I guess the theme of the day is stop electing stupid people to high office. Stop electing stupid people to high office who then in turn nominate and get confirmed to their positions other stupid people. People who are mired in conspiracy theory, driven by wild, unrealistic ideas about how the world works. People who are in a position, I'm talking about RFK Jr., by the way, to run our healthcare system, to control policy based on what the United States recommends or allows you to take as medicine, to get as a vaccine. This is someone who thinks all vaccines are dangerous. He said it, he said it, he said it, he said it. He'll deny it because he's a liar, but he is an anti-vax kook. And I have two clips here from their little weird cabinet meeting where they go around the horn and just lather Donald Trump up and just they're doing the double fist dance, except it's actually on Donald Trump. It's all very, very weird and gross. An embarrassment for the United States to have this as an international spectacle every time they get around Donald Trump. There was one point where, I'm not going to play a clip of it, but Marco Rubio talked to Donald Trump as though he has just ushered in an era of peace on the globe, and the entire cabinet started applauding. It's just fucking weird. But in this clip, it's RFK rambling again about Tylenol and how dangerous it is. And all he does is out himself as a know-nothing, as an abject moron about basic biology, basic things that you learn in sex ed in 5th or 6th grade in the United States. Thinking that babies are in the placenta and not in the uterus. Like just basic shit. That this moron, a dumb guy, put in charge of health and human services. And then we're going to go on, and he's talking about circumcision being related to autism, and that if you get circumcised early, as though people are going in at 70 years old en masse to get snipped, to get circumcised. What are we doing? Who is this person? Why is he in charge of anything? He needs an apple box to stand on a corner of a street and start screaming about Jesus and the apocalypse. He doesn't need to be in charge of our health infrastructure. Let's start with the placenta nonsense. Watch this.
And they're doing that. And it was a profound success. It will affect every American for 100 years. And you should be getting bipartisan accolades on that. I'll say one other thing about Tylenol, only because of this. This morning before I came in here, somebody showed me a TikTok video of a pregnant woman, 8 months pregnant. She is an associate professor at the Columbia Medical School. And she is saying F Trump and gobbling Tylenol with her baby in her placenta. And the level of Trump derangement syndrome has now left political landscapes, and it is now in the realm of pathology. And a mother could overwhelm millions of years of maternal instinct to put her baby at risk. And all you have to do is look at the studies which you and I talked about. It's not dispositive that causes autism. But it is so suggestive that anybody who takes this stuff during pregnancy, unless they have to, is irresponsible. There are 15 rodent studies.
Trump derangement syndrome is an actual prognosis. We're gonna shut up. You are stupid. I saw a TikTok and now it's really upset me. Gobbling Tylenol with her baby in her placenta? What are we doing here? This is disqualifying. This isn't misspeaking. Because the next clip I'm getting ready to play took place 2 minutes later or so, after they ramble back and forth about Tylenol, and Donald Trump starts giving the pronouncements about not taking Tylenol. And then RFK jumps back in with his dick snipping talk about when you get circumcised early, as though that's not when it's done normally anyway. What goes on in his head? The problem is he cannot be compelled to let us know. We have to extrapolate through all of the conspiracy, the mire and the swamp of idiocy that just flows freely from his worm brain, his amoeba-eaten nonsense gray matter. Watch this.
And some other things, but I would say don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and when the baby is born, don't give it Tylenol. If you can avoid it at all, just don't give it Tylenol.
I'll say this.
Really, what do you have to lose? You really don't have much to lose. Yeah,
There's also there's many other confirmation studies. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. Oh, none of this is dispositive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
But, there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this a long time ago. I met Bobby in my office 20 years ago. We were talking about the same thing 20 years ago. And I was a real estate developer. It bothered me that it seemed to be getting worse, but...
What are we to make of this? What are we to come away with this when you're talking to the president who's obviously not a medical professional? How did he phrase it? I would say, as a non-doctor, yeah, no shit you want to inject bleach, that you're a non-doctor. You want to shine light up into your asshole to cure COVID? We know you're a non-doctor. You're a non-smart person. You're a non-elementary understander of words. We get it. And you have been, the American people, a preponderance of the voters, saw fit to put you in place because I guess eggs were expensive. And now we might not be able to have the vaccines that we need. Children might be restricted from getting vaccinated while measles is on the rampage in Texas, in South Carolina. There are new cases every day of this highly infectious, one of the most infectious viruses out there. And people fall. They succumb to this nonsense because it's spoken with such confidence about the placenta and the circumcisions. What do you do? Look, I don't know. I wish I had answers. I wish I had the ability to just give this overarching 30,000 foot view with solutions. But as an electorate, our only solution is to look to the midterms and get out there and get your family and friends and coworkers and acquaintances, people you meet at the bus stop, talk to people about this election and what the most important issues are to you. If you got a created folder on your phone with video evidence of the things that people don't know or believe because they don't follow the news enough, do that. But it's going to be on all of us to communicate these ideas and the very real threat to all of us, especially related to health, because the next pandemic is just right around the corner. And we've got preventative policy. We've got funding to track the next infections, the next possible pandemic. We just stopped doing it because, like Donald Trump said during the first pandemic that he faced down as a president. The reason we have more COVID than anybody is because we test, as though people don't have COVID if they don't actually test positive for COVID. Again, the bleach light guy, the non-doctor, as he self-described. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. If you're on Facebook, make sure you've liked and followed the page there, Dollemore Daily. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. It's free, and you can do both on both. Huh? That's a nice little treat, right? I like to give back to the audience, and that's what I'm giving back to you. You can subscribe. You can go like and follow the Facebook page. Oh, I'm a dipshit. Anyway, I love and appreciate you very much. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go. We got a trip we're leaving for. It's a business work / leisure trip next week. I'll be leaving Wednesday. We're going to have a guest host. Should I announce now? I'll announce next week. It's going to be good. It's somebody who recently interviewed the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. Let the speculation run wild. Anyway, I'll see you next time, you guys. I love you. Be genuine. Take care of one another.